Alex, a 24-year-old programmer living in a crowded mid-sized city, had spent the last 18 months building a delivery app called SwiftHaul from his one-bedroom apartment. The idea was simple: restaurants, pharmacies, and small shops could connect with freelance couriers for fast, cheap local deliveries. Alex handled all the code, the mapping algorithms, the payment system, and the user verification. He was proud when the app reached 50,000 downloads in its first 6 months. Investors started calling. He signed a small deal with a logistics company that gave him access to warehouse space and a handful of corporate clients. What Alex did not know was that one of those corporate clients was a shell company owned by a transnational criminal organization. The cartel, operating under the name Northland Trading, had been looking for a clean, untraceable way to move cash and small weapons across the city without using their own vehicles or people. SwiftHaul was perfect. They created dozens of fake storefronts, paid couriers through hacked prepaid cards, and shipped their illegal goods inside ordinary-looking packages marked as office supplies or electronics. Alex never checked the contents. The app's terms of service explicitly said couriers and clients were responsible for their own parcels. He was legally protected, but morally blind, and completely unaware that his creation had become the backbone of a shadow economy. The discovery happened on a Tuesday night. Alex was running a routine database optimization when he noticed a strange pattern: certain delivery addresses repeated every 48 hours, always between midnight and 3 in the morning, always paid in cash equivalent cryptocurrency with no refunds ever requested. He pulled up the raw GPS logs. One route went from a derelict auto shop to a luxury apartment building. Another went from a storage facility to a small airport hangar. The packages were never larger than a shoebox, yet clients paid premium express fees. Alex wrote a script to flag all deliveries matching that profile. Over the last 3 months, there were over 200 such trips. He cross-referenced the client accounts and found that 90% shared the same payment gateway token, a single anonymous wallet. That wallet had moved nearly $2 million through SwiftHaul's system. Alex's hands started shaking. He thought about calling the police, but then he remembered news reports about a local journalist who had tried to expose organized crime and ended up in the river. Instead, he called his only friend who understood code, a former classmate named Maria who now worked in cybersecurity. Maria listened in silence and then advised him to copy everything to an external drive and walk away, pretending he had seen nothing. But Alex could not walk away. The app was his creation. Every illegal shipment was happening under his digital signature, and his conscience would not allow him to simply ignore it. On Wednesday morning, Alex arrived at the SwiftHaul shared office space to find 2 men waiting by the elevator. They wore plain dark jackets and did not smile. One of them asked if he was the developer, and Alex said yes before thinking. The man handed him a burner phone and explained that his client Northland wanted a meeting that night at 10 o'clock, and that he should not involve anyone else. Then the 2 men left without another word. Alex stood frozen in the hallway. He had never mentioned Northland to anyone except Maria, which meant they had been watching him, probably had access to his personal messages, and possibly even his apartment. He went back home, locked the door, and opened his laptop. The external drive with the evidence was still in his backpack. He plugged it in and started writing a new piece of code, a silent data broadcaster that would stream the flagged delivery logs to a secure cloud server every 30 seconds. If anything happened to him, he could release the link to the press. But first, he needed to survive the meeting. At 9 in the evening, he took a rideshare to the address the men had given him, an old textile factory on the south side. The building was dark except for a single light on the 2nd floor. Alex climbed the stairs, his heart pounding. Inside, a woman in a business suit sat behind a folding table. She introduced herself with a fake name, calling herself the broker. The broker offered Alex a choice. Option 1, take $300,000 in cash, sign a non-disclosure agreement, and modify the app's code so that all Northland deliveries were hidden from any internal audit or law enforcement request. Option 2, refuse, and the cartel would destroy him piece by piece. She calmly explained that they would frame him for drug trafficking, hack his bank accounts, send false reports to his family, and eventually kill him in a way that looked like an accident. To prove her point, she slid a laptop across the table showing live footage from a camera hidden inside his own apartment. Alex saw his messy desk, his cat sleeping on the couch, and the half-empty coffee mug. His skin went cold. He asked for 24 hours to think, but the broker shook her head and gave him only 2 hours to start the code changes. She informed him that one of their men was already waiting at his apartment. If the changes were not uploaded by midnight, that man would walk inside, and Alex would never see morning. Alex stood up, his legs feeling like rubber. He asked to use the bathroom. Inside the filthy restroom, he pulled out his phone and typed a single message to Maria, activating what they had called Plan B. Plan B was the broadcast script that would expose everything. He pressed send, and the message went through. Then he walked back to the table, knowing that his life had just changed forever. Alex told the broker he would cooperate. He asked for the cash to be placed in a locker at the central train station, with the key left at the office reception. She agreed and handed him a clean laptop to write the code modifications. For the next 90 minutes, Alex typed furiously, but he was not just hiding the cartel's deliveries. He was building a backdoor into the app's core routing engine. Every future Northland shipment would be silently tagged with a unique identifier that also triggered a secondary broadcast to a new server, one controlled by a journalist he had never met but whose encrypted email Maria had found. That journalist was an independent reporter named Daniel Cross, who specialized in organized crime. Alex had sent Daniel an anonymous tip 2 hours before the meeting, along with a sample of the delivery logs. Daniel had replied with a single word confirming the authenticity. Now, as Alex coded, the broker watched over his shoulder. She did not understand the programming syntax, only that the changes looked compliant with her demands. At 11:47 at night, Alex uploaded the modified version to SwiftHall's production server. The broker's technician verified that the flagged deliveries no longer appeared in the standard audit logs. She smiled, closed her laptop, and told Alex he had made the right choice. The cash would be at the locker the next day, and he should not do anything stupid. Alex walked out of the factory at 12:15 in the morning. The street was empty. He called a rideshare but canceled it after 2 minutes, realizing that he did not want another tracked vehicle. Instead, he started walking toward the nearest 24-hour diner, 3 blocks away. Halfway there, his phone buzzed. It was Maria. She told him that the broadcast was live and that Daniel had just published the first story, linking to the public dashboard. Police were already calling for comments. Alex felt his heart stop. He had not planned for the broadcast to go live so fast. He had assumed Daniel would wait until morning, but the reporter had seen the data and decided to move immediately. Alex looked around. The street was still quiet, but he knew the cartel had eyes everywhere. If the broker's people checked the public dashboard, they would see that the hidden deliveries were now exposed, and they would trace the leak back to him. He started running. He needed to disappear for at least 12 hours, until the story was too big to bury. He ducked into the diner, went straight to the restroom, and changed into a spare shirt he always kept in his backpack. He pulled his hood up, paid cash for a coffee, and slipped out the back exit into an alley that led to a residential street. He kept moving without looking back. By 1:30 in the morning, Alex was 4 miles from the factory, walking along a dark bike path that followed the river. His phone was off. He had removed the battery to prevent tracking. In his backpack, he carried the external drive with all the original data, a portable charger, and $300 in cash he had withdrawn weeks ago for emergencies. He found a bench near a public restroom and sat down. His mind was racing. The broadcast dashboard had been viewed over 10,000 times in the first hour, according to Maria's last text before he powered down. Major news outlets were picking up the story. The police had raided 2 of the flagged addresses and found cash and weapons. But the cartel was not stupid. They would abandon those locations immediately and destroy evidence. The real prize was the connection to Northland Trading, the shell companies, and the money trail. Alex had that data on his drive. He also had something else, a second script that could track the cartel's active couriers in real time by following their payment tokens. If he ran that script now, he could see where the remaining illegal shipments were moving tonight. He turned on his phone just long enough to connect to a public Wi-Fi signal from a nearby library. The script ran. Within seconds, a map appeared showing 6 active deliveries, all moving toward a single warehouse on the industrial waterfront. He knew he had to act. Alex decided to go to the warehouse. He understood the danger, but he also knew that the police were overwhelmed and moving slowly. If he could get video evidence of the cartel's operation, people unloading packages, counting money, handling weapons, he could give the news networks something undeniable. He walked another 2 miles along the river, staying off main roads. The warehouse was a large corrugated steel building with a cracked parking lot. 3 vans were backed up to the loading dock. Men in dark clothes moved boxes from the vans into the building. Alex hid behind a dumpster 50 yards away. He pulled out his phone, activated the camera, and zoomed in. The footage was grainy but recognizable. He recorded for 10 minutes, capturing faces, license plates, and the distinct logo on one of the boxes, the same logo used by a legitimate electronics supplier that Alex had previously flagged in the delivery logs. Then he heard a noise behind him. A man with a flashlight was walking toward the dumpster. Alex dropped flat to the ground, crawled under a broken pallet, and held his breath. The man's boots stopped inches from his face. The flashlight beam swept over the pallet. A second later, the man's phone rang. He answered, cursed loudly, and ran back toward the vans as someone shouted that the police were on their way. Alex waited until the vans sped away, then crawled out from under the pallet. He checked his phone. The video was saved. He uploaded it to the same secure server using the broadcast script, which automatically added it to the public dashboard. Then he ran. He ran until his lungs burned, weaving through side streets and empty lots. At 3:45 in the morning, he reached the central train station, which was mostly deserted. He found a bench in the main concourse, sat down, and finally turned his phone back on fully. He had over 200 messages. Most were from unknown numbers, containing threats, offers, and questions. But one stood out, a text from a detective named Sarah Velez from the Regional Major Crimes Unit. The message explained that the broker had been taken into custody and wanted to make a deal, giving up everyone in exchange for witness protection. However, there was one more shipment leaving at dawn, and the detective needed Alex's help to verify the tracking data. Alex stared at the message. It could be a trap. The cartel could have compromised the detective, or it could be real. He decided to call Maria, his only trusted ally, to get a second opinion before making any move. Maria answered on the first ring. She sounded exhausted but alert. She had been monitoring the dashboard from her apartment, which she had barricaded with furniture. She told Alex that Daniel Cross's story had been shared over 500,000 times. 2 international news networks were running live segments about what they were calling the delivery app conspiracy. The police had arrested 7 people so far, including 2 mid-level cartel operators. But the head of the cartel, a man known only as the Handler, was still free. The broker had been picked up at the factory 15 minutes after Alex left, based on an anonymous tip Maria had called in using a burner phone. Detective Velas was real, as Maria had verified her badge number through public records. The shipment leaving at dawn was supposedly carrying $2 million in cash and a dozen handguns. It was being moved by a courier who did not know what he was carrying. If the police stopped it, they would have physical evidence directly linking Northland Trading to the cartel's financial network. Alex agreed to help. He told Maria to send Detective Velas his encrypted chat ID, and then he waited in the train station, watching the first light of dawn creep through the windows. At 4:30 in the morning, Alex received a secure message from Detective Velas. She sent him a partial license plate and a description of a delivery van, white, no logos, with a dent on the rear left door. She asked him to run the van's movement through SwiftHall's backend using his administrator access. Alex logged into the server remotely from his phone, a risky move, but he had no other choice. He found the van's delivery profile. It was scheduled to pick up a package from a small warehouse on the east side at 5:15 in the morning and deliver it to a private airfield by 6 o'clock. The client was a shell company that had already been flagged in the broadcast data. Alex cross-referenced the van's GPS history and saw that it had made similar early morning trips every 2 weeks for the past 4 months. He sent the real-time tracking link to Detective Velas. She replied that her team was moving into position and advised him to stay off the streets. Alex should have listened. But he could not shake the feeling that the handler would not let the shipment go without watching it personally. He checked the broadcast dashboard one more time and noticed a pattern. Every time a major shipment moved, a specific black sedan appeared near the pickup location about 30 minutes before departure. Alex found the sedan's license plate in the traffic camera feeds that were publicly accessible through a city data portal. He wrote a quick script to track the plate's last known positions. The sedan was currently parked 3 blocks from the East Side warehouse. He sent this information to Detective Velas as well. Then he made a decision. He would go to the warehouse himself, not to intervene but to record from a safe distance. He took a rideshare to a gas station half a mile away and walked the rest of the way through an industrial park. He found a hiding spot behind a stack of concrete pipes with a clear view of the warehouse entrance. At 5:10 in the morning, the white van arrived. 2 men loaded a single large duffel bag into the back. At 5:18, the black sedan pulled up across the street. A man in a long coat got out and stood by the sedan's hood, watching. Alex zoomed in with his phone and captured the man's face clearly. At 5:22, police cruisers appeared from both ends of the street without their lights on. Detective Velas gave the signal, and officers swarmed the van and the sedan. The man in the long coat tried to run but tripped on the curb and was arrested within seconds. The duffel bag contained cash and guns. Alex kept recording until an officer noticed him and ordered him to leave the area. By 8 o'clock in the morning, the story was everywhere. Alex had finally gone to a police station, where Detective Velas took his statement and secured his external drive as evidence. The handler, the man in the long coat, was identified as a fugitive wanted by 3 different countries. The broker's testimony, combined with the delivery logs and the warehouse video, led to the arrest of 42 people connected to the cartel. Swifthall was shut down temporarily, but Alex was not charged. Instead, he was hailed as a whistleblower who had risked everything to expose a criminal network. He gave a single press conference, then disappeared from public view. 6 months later, he was living in a small town under a new name, working as a freelance coder for a non-profit that tracked corruption. He no longer built delivery apps. But every night before bed, he checked the public dashboard he had created. It had been taken over by a coalition of journalists and continued to flag suspicious shipping patterns around the world. Alex would smile at the screen, close his laptop, and go to sleep knowing that sometimes the code you write can save lives, if you are brave enough to hit send. The story ends there, with no sequel or cliffhanger, only the quiet satisfaction of a man who chose the truth over his own safety.